Hello.
Hi, I'm sitting here waiting for other people to arrive.
Okay. Yeah, and for
And,
some
and
reason, I don't have my normal mute button, and my camera is not working, so I'm not sure.
okay, yeah, and I actually can't see you in my list of participants. So it's
Yeah,
very
I've got it.
strange. It says there's seven. It says there's seven participants, um, and yet when I look at the participants, it only shows me Michelle, myself, and Digicom. Now there's eight participants. Can I just ask if anybody is out there, if Jenny Reed is out there, if she can just put her camera on and make an appearance or say hello? This is very interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was my
Um,
new computer, because I can't see
uh,
myself even, but there's nothing.
yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Let's just see. Okay, wait. I am starting to see something. Okay, so what I have in the room, I have Caleb, Collins, Jean-Marie, Anthony, Ochako, and yourself, Michelle. So our first presenter is not here yet, nor is our second. And so Anthony, you're the first presenter that's actually here. Anthony, can you hear me? Anthony? Yeah, I might be calling. I see. Anthony's also is not as part of put as set as part of the panelists at the moment. Anthony, if you can hear me, I think you need to join through the panelist group, um, and anybody else who's a panelist. If you don't mind, there should be two links in your inbox. One which says panelist, one which says doesn't say panelist. If you can join through the panelist one, and then Paul, I'm not sure if you are listening, but I wonder if you can just confirm that there's not a whole bunch of people sitting in a waiting room somewhere. Sorry, guys. Yeah. It seems that the exact setup perhaps of this place of the workplace is not quite a hunky dory. So if you just give us a little bit of time to get it sorted out. Um, I must say I'm not sure exactly what time this is meant to happen. It got set to 5 past. It was quarter past. It was then quarter two. And it's now 10 past. So let's hopefully get it going by quarter past 12. The nice thing about being virtual is that we're in control of this and we're not going to drink cocktails on a beach anyway. So we can each have the allocated time that we have, and use it to the full capacity. Uh, yeah, and I'm very bitter about the fact that I'm not going to sit on a beach and drink cocktails. I honestly think we should have a coconut with an umbrella in it. Everybody in this room. But anyway, that's being that. I'm sitting here in Pretoria and it's very gloomy. Okay. I still don't see any other participants as panelists, and I have the five of you as listeners. Uh, can I just check? I see, Michelle, you are able to unmute yourself. Caleb, are you able
Yes.
to unmute yourself and speak? If you are, unmute yourself and speak. Say hello, maybe. Okay. Collins, this is an invitation to speak, even in a session where you're not on the on the list. Oh, Caleb, you are also a presenter. Caleb, can I ask that you also join the panelist link, if you don't mind? Let me see if I can put the
Prof, must I
panelist
also
link in.
join the panelist? I'm not sure whether I joined. I just clicked. I'm not sure what I pressed.
Okay, so maybe yeah. Yeah, no, mine. You're under attendees. I'm gonna try and post the panelist link, and I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to into a chat here, and then those of you who are not part of the panelist link or who are supposed to be presenting can jump over to that one. Let me try and do
Yeah,
that
because
quickly.
I'm supposed to be either presenting in break room 2 or 3, and there's 2 different programs. And so, yeah, that's why I'm not sure whether I'm in the
Yeah,
right room. I don't
it's
think so.
it's a little bit confusing. Um, con- okay, so I'm not allowed to post in a chat. See if I can do that. Um, Michelle, since you're the only one, let me just see. What is your presentation? I don't think I see you
Yes.
on this group.
No, that's
So
why
that,
I'm
oh,
supposed to be in
actually,
a
yeah,
different
no,
room.
you're not. Yeah, no, you're not in the right group. I'm just looking at the thing. You're supposed to be in the hybrid session and not in the virtual session.
Yes, but this is the only link I've received. So I've sent a mail to
Alrighty.
Celia, and I've also sent a mail to Paul, but I haven't heard anything back.
Paul,
So I,
Paul is the person. I don't. Let me just see if I've got a link for the hybrid. Not that it's going to help because I can't post it anyway.
but perhaps you can drop me
Yeah,
a
no, I
mail.
don't. I don't have the hybrid. I've got only the virtual ones. I suspect yeah, no, unfortunately, I have only the all virtual ones.
Okay, so I'll just wait
So
for
yeah,
them to get back to me.
okay, yeah,
All right. Thanks, Prof. Then I'm
okay,
going to jump off. I actually don't know what
all
I've
right.
done right to press the audio because it wasn't working. And then I just started pressing lots of things, and all of a sudden I was able to speak. So, yeah, perhaps the other
Yeah,
participants also trying to speak, but yeah, it's definitely we
yeah, uh,
muted somewhere.
yeah. Okay, let me just see. Maybe I can. Honestly, I have no idea. Um, how to proceed. Hi, Paul. Paul, are you in the room? Um, Paul, I'm not sure if you're listening. We're rapidly losing participants in this. It seems everybody is in the attendees list. Um, I whereas I think everybody who's still in the room should be in the panelist group. Um, I don't think any of the attendees can speak at the moment. Anthony, you would be the first to go. I wonder if you can just tell me or try and tell me whether you um, can speak. Okay. Okay, I see in the questions and answers that you're not able to speak. Okay, guys, if you don't mind just being a little bit patient, I'm going to try and get hold of Paul again and see if I can figure out what's going on.
Hello, Neil.
Hi.
Hi, this is Jeannie
Ah,
Reed.
Jenny. Okay, you've
Sorry.
managed to make it into the panelists. No, that's
Yeah,
fine. I'm very
sorry.
excited because no. Nobody else seems to be able to get into the panelist link at this stage, but you're the first speaker, and so I think uh, what we should do is I think we should start as quickly as possible. So I'm just
Perfect.
gonna, Jenny, it's just at the moment, it's yourself, Caleb, Anthony, and Ohoko at the moment. So as I say, you're the first speaker. Let me just find your title. Yeah. And then I'm going to ask you to get going, and then hopefully Paul will be able to circulate the panelist link to the other participants, or I'll be able to circulate the panelist link to the other participants, and then we'll be ready for their sessions. I'm assuming they can hear you because I've been seeing there's Caleb moving across. Great. Okay, so Jenny, your title is Promoting Principal Business in Africa.
Correct.
I haven't had a look at your bio. I don't think we have time, and I don't want to waste your precious time. Each of you have 20 minutes to present. I'm going to leave it entirely up to you how you want to divide that. If you want to talk for 20 minutes, if you want to talk for 10 minutes and discuss for 5 minutes, if you want to talk for 15 minutes. But what I will do is that at 15 minutes, I'll just say there's 5 minutes left. And then
Perfect.
I'm going to cut you quite smartly at 20 minutes.
Fantastic.
It's a bit tricky in these virtual spaces, but let's see
Yeah,
how it works. So Jenny, do you have a presentation?
I
Can you
do.
share it?
Can I share it? Yes, sure.
Pardon?
Can you see it?
I can't see a presentation yet. I can see your screen. Presentation is up. I'm going to mute me, and I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, go, and over to you.
Great. I'll just give you a short introduction to myself so it helps to know the angle I'm coming from. I'm based in South Africa with a company called iFacts, and we specialize in employee screening and lifestyle audit, so managing the human risk of business. And that's really what I'm talking about today in the presentation. I think the recordings are available, so there's a bio there for anybody who does want to have a look at it. But what I'm going to talk about is the African economies are growing. And from a South African point of view, we hear so much about European economies, the US economies, and obviously then our news focuses on our economy. But what we need to look at, I believe, across Africa is higher corporate transparency and better levels of integrity. But we are known globally, and at any of the conferences I go to, the corruption in Africa is always a topic of discussion, and the question as to why. And I think if we take more responsibility on the integrity and the ethics, I think it will add a lot of value to our stakeholders who we sometimes forget who the stakeholders are. People often think the stakeholders are only the investors, only the clients, but we need to just step back and realize how broad the stakeholder profile really is and what they perceive our level of ethical practices to be, and what difference it would make if they perceived us to be more ethical and offering a higher level of integrity. We've been in the traditional vetting game for a long time, and that's no longer enough when you're talking screening staff or doing your non-financial due diligence on suppliers. And fortunately, technology now is giving us more and more access and stronger tools to perform these checks. Traditionally, employee screening was really just picking up a phone and knowing somebody who knew somebody, or knowing somebody at the local police station, or whatever it was. Slowly, that evolved into the verification of more information, qualifications. We're seeing that becoming one of the greatest areas where there's fraud. Criminal records still globally remain the most popular choice of checking people. I'm never quite convinced that's great, because I wonder how many people are convicted. And there's far more effective tools to measure intention as opposed to history. And then compliance has become a huge issue. And we're finding that to operate in industries, etc., specific industries, specific areas, we need to be licensed. And compliance is a world that is moving at an incredibly fast pace. And if we're not on top of it, we could find ourselves in serious trouble working with an organization or an individual who isn't actually licensed to do what they profess to be able to do. And even if they have the skills, they still need to be licensed within that industry. And then we go on to the social behavior, the media assessments, that type of thing, and the risks that that brings into an organization. And not only from an individual point of view, but reputation to the company. So if you haven't evolved into this environment, you really can be stuck behind in making sure that your reputation is protected and the professionalism of your organization is at the top of its game. So I'll go through what is now considered to be more of a modern environment. I don't know if modern's the right word, but probably more effective environment. We need to ensure that backgrounds and qualifications are verified, and it can be done digitally. Sadly, data isn't available in all our countries digitally, so there is still foot soldiers that need to be used. But where we can digitally verify, it must be used, because it just speeds up the process of what people can do. Criminal record checks is an interesting one because every country has a different centralized system. So in South Africa, we're quite lucky. We have a national database, so you can go into a central point to verify and check. But there's certain countries where the criminal record information is housed regionally. And you need to, if you want to be doing a check, you need to actually go around to all the different regions. And I'm sure we know there are some African countries with a large number of regions, so you have to be able to do that. The identity verification, one of the greatest frauds in the world, still is ID verification. And I think it's growing because of the digitization of records and the fraud within that environment. Needs to be verified. And in South Africa, they've just put the cost of verifying IDs up dramatically from a percentage point of view because of the amount of fraud in the country. And internationally, because South Africans don't only operate within South Africa. We're finding that, I mean, a shocking article came out this week. 300 councillors within one of our municipal areas were totally illiterate. And these are people that are making decisions on budgets that are affecting the citizens in the country. There's no skills testing done. And children are leaving school today without basic reading, writing, and what we used to call arithmetic skills. And so the education of a lot of places has collapsed. Not all, but in certain areas it has. And we need to be able to assess people for the tasks that they are going to have to perform. We then move into the integrity environment. And as I said, I'm not a huge fan of a criminal record check, despite it being so popular. But there are integrity assessments that are available to measure the intention of people, because people may not realize what they are going to be exposed to when they first come into an organization. And they may not actually understand how the syndicates can infiltrate them and influence them. So they may come in quite innocently, but once they're in the organization and exposed to information that other people want, it might be quite lucrative for them, and they may get sucked into that system. So we need to know how they'll handle that. And obviously, social media is a massive issue. People are keen to put out as much information as they possibly can. And sadly, that often can damage not only their personal reputation, but the company's reputation as well. What we need to remember is, what can the candidates expect from these assessments? We've got to treat them fairly, and the process has to be transparent. Neil, are you giving me 5 minutes? Sorry, you muted.
And now I'm pressing all sorts of weird buttons on my way to the mute button. No, not yet.
Okay,
I'm sitting
sorry.
at about 10 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, good. No, sorry, no, that's great. Confidentiality is obviously a bigger and bigger thing, and there's protection of personal information. Every country has their own laws and regulations that we need to be aware of. And then the candidate is entitled to constructive feedback. You can't be going and doing this, getting a full background check done on an individual and not telling them what you found. And that should tie into your process. So when they give consent for the information, they should actually know what is being done and what they can expect to find. We find that if that is done fairly and properly, people will often open up, and they may have got into trouble some years ago. And they're frank about it, and people can be rehabilitated. And maybe what they were involved in the past doesn't necessarily affect the position that they're moving into or being promoted into. So I think the process must be fair, and the communication must be open and honest. Fortunately, we're finding lifestyle audits have moved now from being really more of a government process to it going across the board now, and are being included with existing employees. So the corporate environment and the government environment are looking at them, and they obviously look at them from a pre-employment point of view, but from a fraud perspective, we're finding that doing them on existing employees on a regular basis, it's becoming a very, very, very effective fraud prevention tool. And it doesn't have to be invasive. Again, you can't do it without the individual's permission, so they know what you're doing. But it's looking for conflicts of interest. It's looking at areas where there can again be reputational damage and what can go wrong from that point of view. So where we've seen changes in the last few years is, as I said, with the technology. Now, AI, I've always said, I remember, gives my age away a bit, but when we first started working on computers, we used to say what went in was what came out. And AI is exactly the same thing. People love AI, but they gaily ask it a question, whatever is spewed out, they produce as the answer. And sadly, they haven't read it and don't understand what they were looking for. So we've got to feed the right information in. But then once you've got that correct and you're working with it properly, the patterns and the misconduct that you can pick up and highlight can make things so much more effective, so much more quickly. And you can start analyzing a lot more documents and using a lot more tools. So your risk detection speeds up and it can help make you much more professional, much more quickly. Couple of case studies, just to give you an example of what we've worked on. So there was a South African bank and they had a massive issue. Sorry, I'm just going to move this down. They had a massive issue with the onboarding of staff. And you can imagine once you're hiring staff, and obviously the more they cost, the quicker you want them to be producing or giving some return on the investment. And if that onboarding process is delayed, it's costing money every time that person is not effective. So what they did was they started an AI process to reduce that. And the big part of it was the lifestyle audits brought in. They had lifestyle audits, but they were only done on existing employees. And they brought it in at the beginning. They reduced their fraud cases by 24% in 1 year. And their onboarding time was reduced by 40%. Why? Because the effective people and the correct people were going in. A Kenyan company that we worked with, they did digital forensics, and that was looking at insider threats. So because people tend to, from a risk point of view, look at who is infiltrating an organization and who can cause a problem from that point of view. But here they worked from the inside out as opposed to from the outside in. And they saved themselves $3 million in the first year. And then the last one was just a continual process of monitoring compliance. And as I said earlier, compliance is becoming a massive, massive issue globally. I mean, companies that never had compliance departments now have 15, 20 people in a compliance department. And here again, they introduced AI-driven monitoring systems. They put in all the compliance documents and processes that had to be put in place, and they were able to save considerable time and money from that point of view. Sorry, now I've done something wrong.
Okay, Jenny, that's a good time for me to say 5 minutes.
That's great, yes, because I'm hoping that I'll get through this quickly now, and then if it gives us a minute or so for a few questions. So what I'm saying is that organizations have to adhere to all of the legal standards, be transparent, adhere to the privacy rules, and it will automatically elevate the level of professionalism in Africa, well, globally. I mean, not only Africa, but we can learn so much from what is going on around us. So any organization committed to these practices will attract more responsible investors and will enhance the stakeholder confidence and safeguard the reputation in the African environment or continent. So I'd like to ask if there's any questions. I don't like to talk and then shut off and disappear.
No, absolutely not. I think oftentimes the most exciting part is the questions and answers. So I'm going to open it up for questions. But before I do, Kurai and Ohoko, Paul just has mentioned that he sent you an invitation to join the participants. If you can accept that invitation, please. Thanks. Okay. So anybody have any comments, questions for Jenny on that, on her presentation? Thanks, Jenny. It was an interesting presentation. I have some comments once others, once others have had a chance, but let others
Thanks.
have a go first. Okay, maybe I'm going to have to break the there we go. Caleb, go for it. Thank you. I thought I was going to have to break the ice, but go for it, Caleb.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jenny, for your presentation. Interesting
Pleasure.
enough, that there's a company that you have worked with from Kenya. Interesting. But my question is about whether there is mechanism whereby somebody can be able maybe to challenge what has been picked through AI, because we know that sometimes there could be instances whereby AI may identify a threat and maybe it's just a biased threat. So are there ways of, yes, maybe you could try to address that. Thank you.
Now, I think, as I said, with AI, what you're putting in is what's coming out. There's a huge alignment with that. And then once you've got your information, you have to have verification means in place to verify what comes out. Where I think AI is useful is it speeds up the analytical process. So what you're putting in is analyzed more quickly. You can analyze more information, results come through, but then you have to have a verification process in place to check it.
And Jenny, I'm just going to pick up from Caleb. He asked about, I think he suggested appeals processes. Like, is there any mechanism? And I know during recruitment it becomes tricky because people don't share that stuff. But I mean, we do know, besides hallucinations, I think the obvious biases inherent in these machines, become a problem. But anyway, you've answered the validation, but the appeals process, I guess. I suspect I know the answer, but anyway, let me leave it with you.
I think you have to have an appeals process, and that's where the fairness and transparency comes in. You can't just say to somebody, sorry, you didn't get the job, or there's a dismissal or something. You actually have to sit down with that person and discuss it. We've had cases where we've done checks on people and they've come up with a criminal record and the person didn't even know it was there and the information was incorrect because the system was wrong. So I think, and that's where we talk about the transparency and fairness that has to be there.
Great. I mean, we have 27 seconds left. I'm going to give one other person a chance to ask a question, but it's going to have to be real quick. Okay, I'm going to jump in. One point, we often say that we're known as the most corrupt people on the world as Africans. And I think that's a narrative that ought to be challenged. 9 times out of 10, it's based on perception indices, and those perception indices are inherently colonial. And I suspect they're fallacies. So, and because Switzerland is never on those lists, and Switzerland is probably the most corrupt country in the history of mankind, and we know what's happening in the US. But I'm now eating into the next presenter's time. So let me just check who the next presenter is. Now, the next presenter is Kurai, and I'm afraid that Kurai is still sitting in the attendees. Kurai, if you can hear me, you're going to need to accept Paul's invitation to move across to the panelists. I'm not going to waste any time, so I'm going to go then to the third presentation. Anthony, that's you, and this your presentation is about, and this is fascinating to me. Because I don't understand blockchain, but it's about embedding an ethics and corporate governance doctrine into accounting and financial management education at business schools through blockchain technologies, a South African public finance case study. as I say, I have a lot of thoughts about education. It's a research interest, but I know absolutely nothing about blockchain. So I'm looking forward to getting educated. So Anthony, over to you. And let me mute myself. Presentation, by the way. Was I talking with mute on? Anthony, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, Anthony, is that you?
No, this is Kemi. Just confirming that we can hear you.
Okay. Hi. Okay, cool, Kenny. Anthony, I can't hear you. You're not muted, but we can't hear you yet. Anthony, you might have to check your microphone settings. Okay, I'm going to give you a minute or two, and then I'm going to move on to talk.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. Perfect. Okay, let me mute my.
And do you see my slide? Do you see my
We
presentation?
do see your slide, and I can hear you. So yeah, I'm going to start the clock. Again, same rules. You have 20 minutes. I'll warn you at 15. You can use those 20 minutes however you want, but I'd really encourage you to leave a few minutes to talk.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Neil and fellow presenters. This is the topic, ethics and governance embedded in accounting and financial management education using AI and blockchain technologies, a South African public finance case study. What I would want to say, because the slides are many, and so I will not be talking to all the slides. What I would like to do is just take the agenda now, and then give a summary of what it is that I am presenting in the paper, and then use the slides just to color in the main messages of this paper. And so I am with the Tshwane School of Business. I have spent 25 years at the National Treasury, and the last 5 years of the 25 I spent as head of assets and liability management in the National Treasury, essentially looking at a sovereign balance sheet, assets, liabilities, and the impact on equity. So just taking this agenda, I'm going to give you a summary of what it is that I am presenting. So the argument is made in this presentation that a education curriculum or an education practice gap exists between accounting and financial management business school education and industry practices in South Africa. And the gap relates really to the design of ethics and governance education within the curriculum. And the proposition that I make in this paper is that governance and ethics must be embedded in the accounting and financial management curriculum in South Africa and in South African business schools. And the primary literature source that I used for this proposition on the industry practice side, I used my past research in 2002 or 2004, and I used Eskom as a case study to make the argument, and I will elaborate on the argument shortly. And then on the education curriculum side, I use a study, a 2020 study on MBA programs in South Africa. Can you hear me? Yeah. All good?
We can hear you. Go for it.
Okay.
I'm not sure who's unmuted. Let me.
In the main.
I'll try and unmute. Or try and mute this person.
Okay.
Okay,
So
cool. Go for it.
on the curriculum side, what I am putting forward and the literature on the industry side, my apologies, on the public finance industry side, and the argument is that poor governance and ethics practices, right, in public finance in the industry in South Africa contributed to poor SOE public finance outcomes, and this is where Eskom comes into the case study. And I'm looking at the period 2004 to 2019, and I'm acknowledging from past research and what we know that SOE constitutional mandate, the mandate of state-owned entities in South Africa is to advance socio-economic transformation in society. And so what my past research shows is that a causal relationship exists between Eskom credit rating outcomes, and that is public finance. I'm now making reference to the public finance industry component of this education practice gap. So there's a causal relationship between Eskom and the sovereign rating, the South African sovereign rating. That's the one finding from past research. Then also what we know from the research I did previously is that the primary driver of sovereign credit ratings in South Africa is poor socioeconomic conditions and deteriorating being the primary driver of poor public finance outcomes in South Africa. So on the one hand, you have the poor governance and ethics practices within the state-owned entity, Eskom, contributing to poor Eskom public finance outcomes. Eskom mandated to deliver socio-economic services. Then socio-economic services being the primary driver of sovereign credit rating downgrades. Added to that, a causal relationship, the research shows, between the Eskom credit rating outcomes and the sovereign credit rating outcomes. And in addition, the socioeconomic environment in South Africa being the primary driver, this is what the results show, of sovereign downgrades in South Africa. And so on the industry side, the argument is poor governance and ethics practices in the industry, Eskom, is what has contributed to poor, deteriorating sovereign credit rating outcomes or public finance outcomes nationally, as well as poor socio-economic conditions nationally. Both poor public finance outcomes and poor socio-economic conditions that we have in South Africa can be attributed to poor governance and ethics practices within the industry. And so that's the one main argument. And so the literature, there is also literature on the education side of this education practice gap that suggests that, and yeah, I'm looking at a 2019 study on MBA programs in South Africa, and the London Review of Education, that suggests a need exists to restructure the South Africa MBA curriculum. This is page 11 of 23, and that the dynamic nature of today's business environment points to the need to continuously realign the curriculum with emerging business trends. And so these two literature argument that comes from the literature suggests that poor governance and ethics practices is what has contributed to the poor socioeconomic conditions and poor public finance. And there is a link to the curriculum within MBA business schools on accounting and financial management, suggesting the need for accounting and financial and for ethics and governance to be embedded in this curriculum. That's the first argument. The second argument that I present in this paper is that this embeddedness to embed governance and ethics into this curriculum can be done using blockchain and artificial intelligence technologies. One, blockchain technology I am associating with it is a corporate governance technology. Blockchain technology has progressed from simply information technology to an institutional technology. And so blockchain can be associated with governance, moving in sequence and ensuring that a process moves in a particular sequence. And I have the definitions in the presentation on what how I define corporate governance and how I define blockchain technologies. And on the ethics side, embedding ethics into the curriculum, also there is technology to do that. And what I'm proposing is linking it to artificial intelligence is how one could embed smart contracts or smart agreements into individual blocks in order to ensure that these contracts comply or adhere to governance on the one side. So you could have a governance module that you are including into the technology for a curriculum redesign, and you could have an ethics module that you embed into this curriculum. And so I am suggesting that each block in a sequence represents one key theme and a necessary theme within the curriculum of accounting and financial management. And so I take a common textbook, the Carlos Correa, Financial Management. You take the textbook, it covers important themes. I'm putting each of those themes into a block and saying you cannot move from one block to the next without having met certain requirements. And those requirements are linked to ethics and governance. And that is in summary. So what I don't know if there are any questions, but I could just go briefly to what and color in what I've just said. These are important topics: ethics, governance, artificial intelligence, smart contracts, blockchain technology, and then the curriculum. And so it's defined here. And the purpose really, as I mentioned, it is about investigating this gap that exists between education and practice in accounting and financial management. And so the problem statement is that this gap has been widening. And with this widening between the curriculum itself, the education and the practice, we have in fact seen adverse socioeconomic and sovereign credit rating or public finance outcomes. And we have the Zondo to show, we have ESCOM, and I'm using ESCOM as a case study here, but there is a causal relationship that, that we see in the research. And so the proposition is we need to fix the problem, we need to embed ethics and governance into this curriculum to then get a better outcome, a more favorable outcome. And so, and the literature that the textbook makes reference to very important decisions. And so it is about how decisions are taken and the key building blocks for these decisions then is the balance sheet. And so the whole research is based on a conceptual framework of the accounting equation. So you have the financing decisions that must be done in an ethical and governance proper manner, which is really on the liability side of the balance sheet. You have the investment decisions that you'd find on the asset side of the balance sheet. And what I'm suggesting, embed governance and ethics into the liability, into the asset side. That's the investment decisions. Operational decisions could also be viewed as working capital management decisions, but that impacts the income statement, will impact the equity position. So those are the important decisions that if you were to train students and teaching MBA students, the understanding of how decisions of this nature that is core to the to practicing accounting and financial management as CFOs within audit, etc., that having that embedded into the training is what I'm suggesting. This is just conceptually how this balance sheet, how it looks. On the liability side, that's a sovereign balance sheet. Just looking at on the liability, you have the financing decisions. On the asset, you have the investment decisions. My research was on guarantees issued to Eskom. That shows that's on the liability side, and a financing decision that ought to have an impact on the asset side. It ought to have an impact on the value of the SOE itself, and it also ought to have an impact on the investment in infrastructure, which you find on the asset side, and that is the investment decisions taken, and putting that together.
Anthony, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So, and this is the research that I'm using, and I'm not going to go into this is just showing the research results on the embeddedness. But when it comes to the data on the curriculum, these are the topics that need to be covered. It's about corporate information being provided. It's about data transparency. It's about corporate strategic planning. So this is the curriculum. And what I'm suggesting in this research design is, and it's also supported by Franklin Covey's transformational methodology, that you must find an overlap between what, which is the knowledge, how, which is the skill, and why, which is the attitude. And really, that is the gap. The why part, which relates to the ethics and governance. And so blockchain technology and AI is what can provide a solution to embed this ethics and governance. And this is how a framework could look, a redesign of the framework. So based on the literature, a conceptual curriculum redesign must include the following elements: the business school mission statement, and I'll just use the Tshwane School of Business as an example, of which Dr. Robinson is the academic director, has the following mission statement: to equip future leaders with skills, knowledge, and values to make a positive impact in industry and society. So this suggests that the curriculum redesign must strive to meet the expectations of both industry and society. And it requires a built-in conflict resolution mechanism, because there's always conflict between society and industry. And this can be done using the necessary technologies. Just to have a look at what a blockchain process would look like. It would look like, aligned to the 7 habits, it would look like that, with learning outcomes. And each block will have a particular theme. Block 1, as an example, looks at the accounting and financial management business school. That is the objective division, but it looks at the foundations of accounting, really taking the balance sheet. And so you could go through each of these blocks, and then you find, now this will be a very summarized version of each block and what ought to be within the blocks individually and need to follow a particular sequence to deliver and this is just examples of how it would look in Python in the language, to incorporate ethics and governance within each of the blocks within the blockchain, making the point here that that blockchain is not only now about information, it is about institutional technology. And so the conclusion, this is really very small font, but it is just a conceptual framework of this redesign, and how an ethics module and a governance module can be incorporated into each of the blocks. And therefore, the conclusion is you need to embed ethics and governance into the accounting and management curriculum at the business schools as a necessary requirement to close this gap. It will require the application of blockchain and artificial intelligence technologies to forge an alignment from one block of accounting and financial management information to the next, and sequencing corporate decision-making and student competency assessments as recommended in the paper. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Anthony. We have like 50 seconds, so I'm going to open it up for one question. If anybody has a question for Anthony. Nothing. Going. Okay, we're down to 29 seconds, so I'm going to leave it there, Anthony. It would have been nice to have a bit of time to discuss, but anyway, that's the nature of the beast. If we have time at the end, then we'll have an open discussion, I think.
Lovely. Thank
you. So then we jumped over Kurai, but I think Kurai, you're back. You're in the room now. So Kurai, if you are there, if you're using a presentation, can you share it and let me know when you're ready to go? Okay, we're starting to see your presentation. That's good. If you can make it into a presentation, but at the moment it's in edit mode.
Sorry about that. Just struggling with the technology a little bit here.
We all are struggling with technology at a conference about technology. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much, Prof. Nel, for the opportunity. Am I in or? Oh, my screen is no longer sharing. What happened again?
No, I can see. Yeah, I think maybe close your screen and reopen it. It's not in presentation mode. I can see the front screen, but nothing else.
Okay, let me just see something here.
Okay, that's better.
Okay, that's better. Okay.
That's better. Okay, so I'm gonna start my timer once I find it. I've gone and closed my damn clock. But over to you, and again, 20 minutes. You can use it how you like. I'll remind you at 5 minutes that there's 5 minutes left if you're still talking. But I'm really hoping there's a bit of time for talking afterwards, for discussion. But they're your 20 minutes. Okay,
all right.
Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I'm presenting a paper that uses behavioral theories to better understand moral authority among business leaders. So the presentation will include an introduction, the approach, the findings, and their implications. To begin with, I would like to put it up front that we are operating in a world of trust deficit. Okay, this paper is a response to that trust deficit. So let's establish it a little bit. We are living in an era that is called the post-truth era. You might recall from Ralph Key's 2004 book, The Post-Truth Era, which popularized that concept. And he explained that dishonesty has become normalized in various sectors, which include the business world. He argued that where once the boundary line between truth and lies was clear, that's no longer the case. And so he goes on with that. But apart from that, we also have reports that have been coming up which indicate that we do have a problem. I hope you are not seeing. Okay, right, thank you. There is for instance, the United Nations Global Risk Report, okay, from which I took this diagram. And you can see it presents the pressing challenges and risks that the world is facing. And there are a number of them there. What's really, really notable is the fact that misinformation and disinformation make up, really, they take the lead. So now is the biggest challenge that the world is facing is misinformation and disinformation. And that basically means it's lying, okay? Dishonesty and being untruthful. So the big one you'll find is another report by the World Economic Forum, which presents the same finding. And then you've got your Elderman Trust Barometer, which is a survey that is carried out annually, which involves over 900 experts from around the world. It seeks to measure the perceptions that are there in terms of how much people trust leaders and various other actors like your reporters and journalists. And these are the findings in their latest report. You'll find that 68% of the respondents indicated that business leaders purposely mislead people by saying things they know are false or gross exaggerations. And that is quite comparable to what the picture is with regards to government leaders who we could assume they're largely political leaders there. And they're saying it's the same. I mean, for some people, if you say politician, they might think, oh, okay, well, what do you expect from a politician? But I think it must shock us a little bit and maybe steer us in some direction as business leaders to know that as far as the perceptions from this report are concerned, comparable. There's much difference. And the journalists and the media, they're a little bit worse, but still very close to each other. Generally, a lot of mistrust coming out of a picture or a context where we have normalized misinformation and disinformation. Right. So with that, we can also then find it almost like a natural consequence of the context, the fact that we have ongoing scandals in terms of how organizations are run. There's issues of dishonesty, the spread of misinformation. It's indicative in the persistent scandals that are there. If you look at the period from about 2000, when we had the Enron scandals and so on, which really brought focused attention on the issue of ethical conduct in organizational leadership, you will find that there's been very encouraging the way awareness has increased, legal scrutiny, policy reforms, and other interventions, whether it's in terms of research, in terms of education, and so on. However, what's disheartening is the fact that while that is happening, it does appear scandals are persisting, right? And so that raises a question because it means that we still have a lot of unknowns that must still be dealt with. And authors such as Kuchaki and Smith have called for more research into the psychological drivers of ethical decisions and behavior. Basically, they're saying we need to bring our attention to behavior, because ethics is a behavioral issue, and we do not talk enough about it, and we do not make it a foundation for the various interventions that we conceive and come up with to address governance and ethical issues. At least not publicly, not visibly. For example, if you look for any handbook, corporate handbooks, on which contains, for instance, the various policies, you might not find references to specific theories or some specific reference to theories and so on. So that's a big issue there, that we are improving in terms of the frameworks and so on, but we seem to be still struggling in terms of the actual behavior. And perhaps it's time to go back and drill a little bit deeper into the issue of human behavior, which is obviously not an easy nut to crack. Then another thing that is very important, is just by way of a quick background, hopefully it's quick enough, is the issue of increased risks. The fact that we have scandals, we have unethical practices, is not really new. You can go back to time immemorial. These things have been there. What makes it really disturbing in today's world is the level of risk that we are dealing with. Given that, for instance, you have the interconnectedness between organizations, between markets, between nations and economies, and so on. Then you may want to consider the powerful technologies at the hands of the leadership of institutions and organizations. And you could also look at the sizes of these organizations and so on. So it's really the risk. The risk is so big that a few scandals are big enough. Otherwise, the number of scandals that make headlines are just a fraction of the number of organizations out there. But that's still of concern because of the risks that can arise from that. So, just to finish off this, what's really a concern is the risks, but also the fact that those risks are going up. The risk is increasing. The more sophisticated and powerful technologies we have, the risk is going up. But as the risk is going up, we also have a situation where, if you read a number of sources, there's mention of ethical fading, that we are in a time when there's ethical fading, ethical disengagement, ethical washing, and words like that. Especially from the high contentiousness that was there around the 2000, coming to now, it's like we have learned the formalities, the motions, and so on, but the practices, we seem to be regressing. So I think that's really of concern, and that's really what triggered this study. But this study is a response to the trust deficit that is existing. And it examines how to develop moral authority among business leaders in the midst of this growing skepticism that is there. And it sought to use behavioral theories and draw attention to behavioral theories. So in terms of just defining moral authority quickly here, the paper considers moral authority as the elephant in the room, okay? Because oftentimes attention is taken to trust, the trust deficit, the trust crisis, the need to improve trust and so on, which is good, but it has one problem, because trust can be generated in two ways. One is it can be perception-based. The other one is it can be based on fact. And the tendency and the easier way, which doesn't have sustainable benefit, is to go the perception way. get your PR motions, your PR into motion, and deal with the perceptions, and let's get the trust. Okay. So instead of focusing on the declining trust, this paper sought to focus on the declining trustworthiness. That's where the problem is. That's the big elephant in the room. Trustworthiness. What kind of leaders do we have? What kind of, what's their character? How are they being, their values being shaped, and how are they coming and being prepared for the work that they have to do as leaders? That's the big thing here. So there's a more, you can read about the definition of moral authority there, but I'll need to move on. So we are exploring, the paper explored just two things I need to quickly define. One was a cross-domain behavioral approach, where instead of just focusing on, say, one set of theories, it visited the theories that are preeminent in sectors that overlap with corporate social responsibility, such as your environment, such as health. And so it took predominant theories from those sectors, which are not really mentioned that much within the business sector, and yet there's overlap in terms of responsibilities there. And so that's one inclusion here. Then number two, these theories were employed on an end-to-end ethical development process. So instead of focusing just on maybe moral reasoning, or just, let's look at facilitating the mechanism to facilitate certain behaviors and so, the paper suggests more often than not, we need to be looking at the end-to-end explanation of the development of moral authority. And so it seeks to try to take that into consideration. Right, so contribution, it's addressing eroded moral authority, okay, in the form of the trust deficit. Not the trust deficit. Let's say in the form of the declining trustworthiness. It contributes to the broader discourse on business ethics in Africa. It contributes to addressing the gap between policy and practice, the fact that policy improvements, practice regressing. It also applies behavioral theories and takes them from a cross-domain approach. Yeah, and so those are some of the contributions that are notable. How was this paper written? How was the study carried out? The study involved searching for sources on a variety of databases, primarily ProQuest, ResearchGate, and Google Scholar. And it was after, first of all, identifying that there's actually a gap, and the gap being that in literature and research on ethical behavior of the leader, the leader himself as a person, apart from the leader's influence, right? Okay, that and how that leader is developed, there's very little really that you will find if you try to search on theories like that. So we then said, okay, so there's need here to incorporate theories. Let's look at the top theories in environmental sector.
You have 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes.
All right. Okay. So look at those cross-domain theories and try to see if they can play a part. So in terms of the analysis, the theories were grouped into cognitive, value-based, cognitive, social, and change. And looking at them, primarily focusing on the main constructs, bearing in mind the assumptions and the original intentions of those theories. They were coded in terms of where they fit in the end-to-end. By end-to-end, we mean pre-behavior, behavior, post-behavior, the whole spectrum of what takes place in terms of ethical behavior. So this is just an idea of some of the coding that took place. Then what were the findings? The findings, okay, the main finding was that no one single theory can explain that end-to-end process, okay? And so we then tried to synthesize taking advantage of the complementarities between those theories. And this is what was the result. We said that looking at, this is the problem here, these are the issues. There's moral apathy, moral regression, ethical silence, all those words there. So if you have this situation and you want to have moral authority, which is supported by consistent ethical behavior, and you want continuity in terms of that kind of behavior, what should happen? And so you have to focus on ethical orientation, which is the formation of values and the development morally of a person and how that takes place. A lot of it might happen before an individual joins a company, but the company can also find ways to influence and shape values. Okay, then we've got ethical choice, or the reasoning that results in the ethical orientation results in moral sensitivity. Okay, just being aware that this is ethical, this is or you can call it moral awareness. Then ethical choice, you want to get to moral intention. So you get theories like, for example, the theory of planned behavior. It really is very elaborate on this aspect. On this one, you get theories like the neo-Colegian co-Bayesian theory. It will be really elaborate. They all overlap these theories, but they lean towards a certain aspect or a certain area of this end-to-end spectrum. Then you have got your ethical practice, which is transitioning from intention to practice, which is a big issue. And so there are theories that really provide some practical and propose some ways that can be solved to transition and facilitate the transition from intention to practice. And then you have another big one, which is basically the inflection point in this whole study, is ethical appraisal and reflection. What happens there determines whether you will get reinforcement or you're going to get apathy or regression. All right. So you want this here, and there are theories that are very strong on that, like your trans theoretical model. Okay, that it addresses the issue of change and how people can deal with the relapses. It comes from health, where they deal with someone overcoming certain addictions. Okay, all right. Can I have 2 minutes?
1 minute, please. Thanks.
All right. Okay. All right. So that's it there, and so that's basically what we have. All this is happening in the context of interaction with the environment. It does have implications, and there are some limitations, and from it, one can suggest future research. That's really what I have time for, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Great, thank you very much. What I'm going to be doing now, I'm just going to ask Paul to load up Ogoko's presentation, because I see Ogoko is still in the attendees thing. So Karai, while Paul is getting ready, you're welcome to answer any questions from anybody who wants to raise them. I do see there's a hand up. Just hold on a second. Whose hand? Anthony, go for it. And I'm going to be speaking to Paul while you do that.
Okay. Thanks. No, thanks. Thanks a lot, Caleb, for a very good and very interesting presentation on theories. You mentioned, right, Caleb, at the beginning, it's about this misinformation and disinformation. Now, what I would like to know is the individuals who are practicing this disinformation, is it done deliberately? Are they aware, consciously aware that what they are putting out is disinformation, which means they know what the correct information ought to be? And the question is it not then possible to detect the disinformation, and then you address that in how you change the behavior as opposed to, again, the various theories you are suggesting? That's my question. Can it not be detected, this unethical behavior?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you very much. I think the various interventions that are in place are seeking to detect that. Like making sure there's transparency, there's verification processes and so on. But the reality is that there is intentional misinformation and disinformation that is happening. Maybe people sacrificing long-term sustainability with short-term profitability and things like that. But it's very intentional. In fact, this model that framework I'm suggesting only applies for intentional decision making. And most of the major scandals we have, if you trace how they're emanating, it's really intentional. People knew what they were doing. And that's why this also targets leaders, because they have more leeway in terms of the discretion and being able to make those deliberate decisions. But others, thank you. I hope that was useful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I do wish we were convening or reconvening in a coffee shop or after this to take these on. But anyway, as I said, Paul is about to screen the video for the next presentation by Ogoko. I have this strange use, and I'm hoping it's Ogoko as opposed to Ohoko, which would be South African. But anyway, Ogoko, or Paul, if you don't mind screening the presentation for Ogoko's presentation now.
And Neil, I'm going to run it now. Just check that it is the right one. A bit of a scramble in the background here, but let's place it up there.
That's fine.
And then
it's mindful use of social media.
Go. Okay.
Okay, we can go with this one. So this is Kate did ask for this one to be screened. Caleb, present it, or you were in the room. Okay, yeah. Caleb has left the room, so let's screen this one for now. Thanks.
Shall I run with it? Shall I run with it?
Yeah, run with it. Thanks. Go for it.
Good afternoon and greetings from Kenya. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to my presentation. My presentation is titled Exploring Machiavellian Motivations in Sportsmanship, a study of selected Kenyan universities. My name is Caleb Kandagor, a PhD candidate of Daystar University, pursuing leadership and governance. So welcome to my presentation. So what is the context of this study? So the context of this study is that globally, sports generates interest, but also highlight an ugly side, which is characterized by issues like blood doping, violence, match fixing, and cheating. And so this takes us to try to define what is Machiavellianism in sports. So it is taken from the works of Niccolo Machiavelli, the prince, whereby it says that the end justifies the means, which means success should be attained using whatever means. What matters by the end of the day is to be successful. It involves the intentional violation of rules or ethical principles to gain unfair advantage, which means that the person would like to win at whatever cost, whatever method that they want to use. And why did I contextualize this in a Kenyan university? So this particular research, it was an assignment towards a certain unit. And the research problem and gap here is that university games are avenues for nurturing sportsmanship. But also at the same time, we are alive to fierce competition. And this has led some institutions to cheat the system, whereby it results in undue advantage and discouraging genuinely talented students. It's a malpractice that undermines the spirit of fair competition and affects students' moral growth. So which means that the students' moral growth is stunted, so that they cannot be able to pick out the moral issues. The research gap for this is that there's limited understanding of the specific motivations leading students to cheat within the Kenyan university framework. So when you look at the existing literature and research on Machiavellianism in sports, it has been conducted in Western countries. So this one is Europe and North America, and also in Asia. And so this one leaves a gap in understanding how these motivations manifest in Kenya. And that is a particular gap that this research was trying to focus on and trying to find out what is really happening in the university's front. Most of the studies that we found in Kenya, they are focused on sports cheating in the primary school and secondary school levels. They have been given attention, but there's limited research ongoing for the universities. And that's what this research tried to fill. What were the objectives of this research? The research objectives and the guiding questions. For this, the primary research question was, what are the motivations behind Machiavellian behavior in university games among students in selected Kenyan universities? And the key research objectives. So for this particular presentation, we are going just to give two, to investigate the types of Machiavellian behaviors. So we're going to define what is Machiavellian behaviors as applied in sports at universities. And secondly is to investigate the motivations toward sports Machiavellianism. So what can motivate a sportsman or a sportswoman to search or to find undue advantage over a competitor? What are the motivations? And let's turn our attention then to the next thing about what was the methodology and the conceptual framework of this research. So this research, the study design was quantitative research study. The study relied on self-reporting questionnaire, which means it tries to measure as much as how a respondent can be truthful in self-reporting. The sample and the context, this was a pilot study, which means that the results from this study are going to feed into a larger study. We had a sample of 89 students, and they were drawn from two universities. The first one is, and the second university is Pwani University, a public university. It will be good to mention where these two universities are situated in Kenya. The first one, that is Strathmore, is situated in Nairobi, while Pwani University is situated in the coastal city of Mombasa. How did we do the sampling? So we utilized a method called stratified random sampling was employed to secure students across different sports and genders. So in fact, what we did for this is that the participants were approached this day, or maybe when they were having a game, a league game, and then the research assistants were able to approach them and be able to administer the questionnaires on the day of those particular matches. What kind of instruments did we use? So we use a self-administered close-ended questions designed to elicit what we call true reflection of responses. So they were close-ended, true, false, highly likely, and such. So we're using a Likert scale for this. The key sections included the demographics, participation observation of cheating, Likert scale ratings for motivations, acceptability, and severity of the consequences. Data collection utilized the CompCare app. So there's an app called CompCare for enhanced security and data management. So what we were doing is that the research assistants, they had the data, they had the app in their phones, and then they go around for each of the participants, or the respondents who are given the phone, and then they fill the questionnaire, and then they click send, and that data was stored in a secure manner, whereby we are not able to, there's no way we could be able to identify who this particular participant was. Data collection utilized CompCare, as I've said, to enhance security, data management. The conceptual framework, which we call the functional analysis of cheating, the study was framed around factors that contribute to Machiavellianism in sports, leading to possible outcomes, two possible outcomes for our conceptual framework: Machiavellian scores or ethical sportsmanship. So one of those was the resultant. And so let's look at the demographic profiles of the respondents. So we have just given a summary here. And so the total sample we have said is 89. And so we had 100% respondents. The average age was 21. So the ranges was between 17 years to 25 years. The gender, so we had the participants, 69 were male. And so 20 were female who participated in the study. The type of university, so private had 52 participants. So majority of them, which represented 58.4%, majority of the participants were from private universities. In terms of the year of study, the majority were third years, so 36% were third years. So the highest proportion of students were in their third year of study. The sports participation, ball games, so 85.9% were participating in ball games. In terms of the level of competition, 52% were participating in a league match. So over half of the participants were participating in the league level. Moving forward, other things we note in terms of the findings, prevalence of Machiavellian behaviors. So what constitutes Machiavellian behavior? So these were some of the options that we gave the respondents to be able to give us an answer. So in terms of, we're asking them, have you witnessed? The first one was as sportsmanlike conduct, for example, trash talking, intimidation, hooliganism, which was the highest. And in fact, it seems hooliganism, intimidation, and trash talking, 86.5% have witnessed it. Fielding of ineligible players or age cheating, that was 51.7%. Intentional rule breaking, like faking and all that. So that one is 42.7%. You break a rule with the hope that you will not be found out. And of course, it works to your advantage because the referees are human beings and sometimes they may be prone to errors. Use of performance enhancing drugs. So that was 42.7%. It's quite high. Much official bribery is low, which is 23.6%. But yeah, it is low, but if looked in a bigger picture, it's significant. Faking of injuries, so it is 25.8%, but the highest respondent says they have never witnessed faking of injuries. So that one doesn't score highly. Equipment tampering is the least prevalent, that is 12.4%. And it could be because the participation for the sports was ball games. So where there's high likelihood of equipment tampering could be maybe in the track and field events and such. So there could be such possibility. Moving forward, we are still with our findings. Let's look at what are the possible predictors of Machiavellian scores. So this one was our regression analysis. I've not presented the figures here in the tables, but it's in the larger document. We're going to look at the significant associations and the non-significant associations. So from this study, the regression analysis revealed that the type of university and year of study were significant predictors of Machiavellian scores. So when you look at the scores that we got, is that private universities were more prone to cheating in sports. Also, the students in their first or second year of study were more prone to participate, or let's say to have a higher Machiavellian scores. As compared to third years theirs was lower. It could be because of maybe they have stayed longer in school, they are more mature, they understand, and maybe they still want to safeguard themselves and all that. The non-significant associations from the regression analysis, gender was not a factor, big factor. Sports participation and level of competition did not exhibit any significant association with Machiavellian scores. So that one didn't affect the scores at all. Gender, sports participation, and level of competition, whether it was a university level, interclass level, or even the league level, did not matter. I want us to look now at our conclusions and what are the implications for this. The conclusions from this study is that this normalization of unethical behavior, the high prevalence of Machiavellian behaviors, particularly as sportsmanlike conduct. Remember the one we talked about, trash talking, hooliganism, and intimidation, which was at 86%. Rule violation indicates significant ethical issue. So there's an ethical issue here that undermines the integrity of university sports, which means that an opponent can be intimidated, or even in a time whereby maybe they face intimidation or hooliganism, of course, it's going to tilt the scores to the other side. And that is wrong, because even though the team that's going to win, it is going to be normalized, so that many teams are going to resort to that behavior and it becomes normal. And so it's not bringing any fairness. The second one is institutional pressure and culture. So the finding that private university students scored higher suggests institutional culture and policies, such as potential sports scholarship pegged on performance, might be contributing factors. So what we realize about the students in the private university is that most of those students, a majority, over 90% of the students who are participating in sports, they were on a sports scholarship. And sports scholarship, it comes with its own pressures. So which means that this particular student has to perform at a high level to continue being in the team, and say that if they continue being in the team, then their scholarship is assured. So there was some form of pressure, and this kind of pressure builds into Machiavellian behavior. The other one was maturity and experience, which I had previously alluded to. The low Machiavellian scores among the third-year students compared to first-year students may imply that as students mature and progress, they become more aware of the consequences or develop a stronger sense of sportsmanship. And this one is very important because such a conclusion will enable us to, we can do, to maybe to address the issue. Those who are senior, those are in third years, can be able to offer teammates support, or even peer support to those who are in first years, some sort of mentoring, so that we can be able to restore integrity in the sport. The last one was the role of authority. So there was a significant negative correlation with coach and teammate encouragement, suggests that these figures are crucial in promoting or discouraging unethical behavior. So this one was very important. In sports, there is a recognition of who is in authority. Someone like the sports administrator or a coach or the captain, they can be very important agents in terms of discouraging Machiavellian behavior. So this study has established that those are the key figures. They can act as a role model. We want to turn our attention now to the recommendations. What are the recommendations from this study? The first one is that educational programs implement ethics training and awareness programs for students, coaches, and administrators. Anyone involved in sports should benefit, or they should go a mandatory ethics training program. They need to be aware that Machiavellian behavior is bad for the sports and also damages the person ethically. What strategies can we use to be able to prevent? Design strategies that leverage students' existing awareness of repercussions by emphasizing the serious consequences of unethical actions. The students who are in third year, they are so much aware about the serious consequences as compared to students in first year. Maybe it's because they have had an experience, or maybe over the years they have witnessed what has happened to those who have exhibited or even implemented Machiavellian behavior. The last one, there has to be strictness. Universities in terms of regulations. Universities should consider implementing stricter regulations and monitoring systems to curb Machiavellian behaviors and foster a culture of integrity. So it is upon universities. So this is what this study recommend, that universities, they have to do something about it. They don't have to remain silent, especially, yes, they give the scholarship, but also at the same time, they have to be very strict that the students have to maintain integrity. Lastly, on the areas of research. There has to be a deeper research to find out or to try to bring to the surface what are the deeper motivations in private universities. Explore the role of sports scholarship, pressure from administrators and coaches as contributing factors to higher Machiavellian scores. It's good to be able to do a comparison with other private universities to establish whether it's a problem of one single university or similar universities that offer sports scholarship. Longitudinal studies. Conduct studies to track how Machiavellian behaviors and attitudes evolve over time and assess the long-term impact of the intervention. So this one will give us a clearer picture. The last one is the role of officials and financial rewards. There's need to investigate the factors limiting the effectiveness of officials in preventing cheating and the extent to which financial rewards and betting influence sports cheating. So if bets are being placed and we saw that the students are participating in league matches, could they be influenced by betting or even financial rewards? And on that note, I'd like to thank you for listening to my presentation, and hopefully next year then we are going to expand this study and come back and present maybe to a similar forum about what we have found out. Thank you. Bye.
Right. It's a bit strange having a video presented. Thanks, Paul, for presenting or for hosting that. I just got an unstable internet connection thing, so I'm assuming people can still hear me. Before I carry on, just a message. Ogoko, you're still stuck in the attendees group. You need to get into the panelist group. Paul has been sending you invitations. You need to accept those invitations. It's critically important that you do that. You would be the next person to talk at the moment, but I'm going to jump you. And I think the next person who is here, who is on the list, is going to be Al Mahdi. And I'm hoping I'm not butchering your name.
No, it's
and
good.
that's on digital.
Good say.
Sorry. And that's on digital transformation and sustainability. So, yeah, sorry to bounce you up.
No
but
problem.
it's over to you. Just say when you're ready, and I will start the clock.
Okay, I'm gonna share my presentation. I hope it's good for all. Okay, up, share. Can you see my chair?
It's there. Yeah, we've got it. So I'm gonna mute myself and let you carry on. Same rules, 15 minutes. I'll give you a warning, 20 minutes, it's your time. But I really would encourage us to try and have some conversation. I'm feeling conversation starved here. Okay, thanks.
It's good. Can you see my my chair?
Your slides seem to have disappeared again.
Disappeared again? Okay.
Disappeared.
Okay, up.
Marty, just try share again.
That's what I'm trying to do. And after that, I'm gonna move to this. Share.
Yeah, they're coming through now. There we go.
Yeah, got it.
Okay, good.
Oh, it's gone now again.
We've lost
what's
him.
happening? What's happening? Okay. I'm gonna redo it. Okay, up, share. No, what's happening? Sorry for that. Oh. I don't know. I'll see it now.
It's coming back on now. Okay, now it's in
full
presenter
screen,
mode, right at the
presenter
top.
mode. Okay.
Just want to change it. Oh, it's disappeared
Let's go.
again.
Okay.
Not sticking.
Okay. 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 No problem. I'm gonna do it again. So what we are gonna do is no, wait. I'm gonna. I have a recorded version. Hopefully it's not corrected also. Okay. Tech share.
Okay, but we're not hearing you
I'm not
talking
hearing the
now
sound.
on your presentation.
Oh, okay. I can do that. Do that. Okay. So I don't know, Paul, if you have you received my my recorded version. I have sent it yesterday.
I think Paul might be jumping between meetings. So don't you want to just try again and
Okay,
pin up your
my
actual presentation?
okay.
Yeah, I'm trying
not-
to look for it. I didn't receive the recording, but let's just see. Did you send a presentation as well?
Let me see if I've got a presentation, and then I can maybe go through it.
Okay.
No, I don't have a presentation. Let's try one more time on your actual presentation so that you can present it.
Okay.
I mean, it was there, so yeah.
Yes, of course. Okay. Up. I will try it again. I'll try again. Up. Maybe it's gonna work this time. Up. Up.
I'm almost not breathing because it's stuck. So maybe you can go for it.
Then you can see my.
We can see it. Yeah, don't touch anything except the advance button.
There we go. That looks
It's
good.
still there.
Okay.
Cool.
But when I move slides, it doesn't move. So I don't know why. It doesn't move. Something is wrong. Something is wrong. Something is wrong. Okay. Up.
Amanda, do you want to try and email it to me quickly? And maybe Neil can handle the rest of the program. I'll drop you my email address in the box. And then you can email it to me and I can maybe run it from here.
The rest of the program is going to be interesting because I don't know, do we have any other presenters in the room? I don't think so.
Neil, there was a request for, I think, Chiwe Mama to present. Neil, Brian just sent me a message to say that if that person is here, then we can present here in this session, if you wouldn't mind. And I see the person is here. I don't know if it's male or female, but we've got the slide up now. So let's see. It looks like it's running.
Yeah. Okay. So Chiwe, I'll put you in after this, assuming this moves and goes.
So I guess now it's good. So can you see my
There
screen
we go.
now?
It's good. Good to go.
Okay. Sorry for that. So hi everyone. My name is Zelmadi Muntasir. I am a PhD candidate at Hassan II University of Casablanca, Morocco. So I'm very pleased to be here at the ABSA BIN Africa conference. It's my first time here. Today I will be presenting a bibliometric review that explores the intersection between digital transformation and sustainability, two of the most powerful forces shaping organization and society today. My presentation follows a simple structure. I will begin with an introduction and context, followed by the research objective, methodology, and key findings. Then I will move to discussion of the results, the limitation, and finally, a conclusion. So in a global context marked by a growing climate emergency and an explosion in digital tech, the link between sustainability and digital transformation are getting more attention from scientists and policymakers. So the context and problematic. In a global context marked by climate emergency and digital renovation, sustainability and digital transformation are emerging as two fundamental pillars of contemporary strategies aimed at addressing social, environmental, and economic challenges. As digital technology evolved rapidly and sustainability concerns become increasingly prescient, it is essential to examine how these two paradigms interact in the scientific research. This is the main object of this research. So the research objective, to answer to this question, I set three main objectives. The first one, to map the scientific production on digital technologies and sustainability, to identify key authors, countries, and terms shaping the field, to detect emerging trend and international collaboration, driving new research directions. To do that, I said the methodology, the research is based on a bibliometric approach to analyze scientific publication related to this topic. The data was extracted from the London academic database Scopus, only Scopus. I didn't choose Web of Science or other academic database. The study covers the period from 2014 to 2024. Using VoiceViewer software, the analysis highlights international collaboration, authors, networks, and emerging thematic clusters. The data selection and presection. This is a table of the inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria that I used for my research. The inclusion criteria was the studies published before 2025. Field of activity, business management and accounting and econometrics and finance. Document type, article, conference, paper, book, chapter. I chose only the English language. Source type, journal only, and publication status, final only. The exclusion criteria was studies published in 2024 because they are not finalized. Field of study, environmental science, emergency and engineering. Document type, conference paper, reviewed books and books chapters. I excluded other language like Chinese, German, Spanish. And the source type, conference processing, books series, trade journals, and publication status, article in press. Sorry. And as key concern, the key finding, here's the discussion with the results. Over the years, this model shows a fairly stats upgrade trend with a few periods of stagnation, such as between 2018 and 2019. In 2019 and 2020, growth appears relatively moderate, but between 2021 and 2024, we see a significant escalation of this growth. So people are interested to these two words. We observe here that the Journal of Cleaner Production occupies a central position in the field with 9 articles published, a site score of 20.5, and an impressive total of 388,716 citations, highlighting its major influence. As it concerns the 10 most influential authors in this field, so the analysis highlights leading academic figures. Iran managed stand out with a total of 192 publications and 9,161 citations, with an impressive H index of 55, underscoring his major influence in the field. Similarly, Gobahlo Morteza with 115 publication and 7,910 citation, H index 14, has made a significant contribution to this research. So here the most cited, the most influential articles in the field. The most cited works is The Future of Europe, Society 5.0 and Industry 5.0 as the driving forces of future university by Karayanis, with 267 citations, focusing the growing role of digital and industrial transformation in higher education. And there are 2 other major contributions are Campbell focusing on Industry 4.0 performance systems in small and medium enterprise, and Del Guedes in 2021 exploring how big data supports circular economic practice in supply chain. Overall, the study shows the rising importance of linking digitalization and sustainability, especially through smart technology and data-driven management approaches. Overall, the United Kingdom and Germany and Italy dominate in terms of academic impact as measured by citation, while other countries such as India, Indonesia, and Vietnam are gradually stagnating their scientific presence. The results highlights evolution research dynamic and emerging academic hubs in several regions in the world. So now I'm going to move to the results that I got from the Voice Viewer software. So this figure represents a visualization of the most frequently used keyword in the literature of digital transformation. The side of the nodes represents the importance of keywords, while the connection illustrates their co-occurrence in research studies. The different colors indicate a group of keywords, which can be interpreted as a distinct research terms. So the central terms of this network is digital transformation, which appears the most important keyword, by connection several clusters covering various aspects of the subjects. So the discussion of the results, the discussion of funding highlights 3 major insights. The first one is the field shows remarkable growth and dynamism, reflecting the classification of sustainability as a cross-disciplinary topic. The convergence of digitalization and sustainability has created an interdisciplinary research space. The second one, the analysis reveals a structured international network where publications are geographically concentrated, but collaboration are increasingly global. The third, digital transformation, is mainly conceptualized around specific technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, Internet of Things, LOT, and big data, which are seen as key enablers of sustainable practices of responsible innovations. As concerns the remuneration and prospects of this research, despite its contribution, the study has certain limitations. It's released simply on the Scopus data, which may exclude the relevant article indexed elsewhere. Moreover, the analysis is quantitative and does not fully capture the qualitative details or policy implication of the research find. As concerns the prospects, it's encouraged comparative north-south studies to reduce the geographic imbalance in scientific output, develop integrated model linking digital transformation, sustainability, performance, and social inclusion, promote multi-level empiric analysis, business, territorial, institutions to better understand the contextual effects. In summary of this research, this bibliometric review highlights the gradual maturation and vitality of the field of research on digital transformation and sustainability. The analysis reveals a continuous increase in publication, reflecting a growing awareness of strategic role of digital technologies in transition to more sustainable economic, social, and environmental models. And thank you for listening.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for the presentation. And the great news is we have 10 minutes to discuss left. So so I'm going to open the floor up for questions. Anthony, go for it.
Thank you. Thanks, Neil. Yeah, this is a very interesting presentation, and thanks for that presentation, Almari. The period that we're looking at, 2020 to 2024, is also the period that coincides with COVID, with the COVID pandemic, which implies that you then find a lot more people working from home or having more time at home. Would the numbers that you see in publications that is seeing the significant rise during the 2020 to 2022, could that just not be attributed to people just having more time to publish?
I am, as concern period of publication, I am totally agree with you. But if you, I'm gonna reshare my my presentation, and we are gonna see that quickly. So here, for example, here. So as you can see here, between 2020 and 2022, exactly there is an increase, but the increase continue in 2022, 2023, and 2024. We didn't have a stagnation or a decrease in about number of publication.
Yeah. So can I just on that graph? So between 2020 and 2021, could that not be the period that you just simply find more people being able to work and write papers, and the publication emerges in 21 to 22 period? That's the jump. So that rapid rise, could that not, and that's the question, partly be attributed to having had that period between 2020 and 21 a lot more time to publish, to write papers?
Yes, I think it's gonna be it's gonna be a major reason why that's increase from 22 and 2022.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think, but normally when you look at publication statistics, I mean, they're never smooth. But if you look at that graph, like if you smooth it out, it's going up. And I think that captures a general trend in publication globally, right? People are publishing more and more. The pressure to publish or perish is huge in academia. And so I think if you were to look at any discipline, you'd probably start seeing that exponential pattern of publications. COVID might have made a little bit of a... Oh, okay. I think it must be my network. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I suspect COVID is part of the answer. I suspect there's other parts of the answer. Are there any other questions? Okay, so I have a question, or I'm not sure if it's a question or a comment really. And we heard in the, I don't know if you were in the conversation on a beach earlier in the open discussion, but one of the thing, or two of the things that were mentioned as risks associated with the tech side of things are energy usage of tech centers, energy and water usage, so environmental resources. And the other risk is more a social risk, which is associated with work losses in the knowledge economy. And I mean, I guess that's something which all of us would be concerned about as knowledge workers. So I'm just curious as to, like, you framed the relation between technology and sustainability as a positive one, as technology will result in sustainability. I'm wondering whether there's any reflection on the contradiction between technology and sustainability, both social and environmental.
Oh, my main research is about to show how digital transformation can be used to have sustainability development. So this is going to be the next step of my research. Now I do a bibliometric review. After that, I'm going to move to a systematic review, which I'm gonna study which such of the 209 articles that I found, they have link between sustainability and digital transformation. So I'm gonna show how the impact of the digital transformation in sustainability in positively ways.
I think you might want to prepare yourself for the possibility that it doesn't have a positive effect, that the effects are at best ambiguous and potentially quite destructive. I think the amount of energy that's consumed globally on data centers is just, it's like frightening. So as we're running around trying to stop our carbon footprint, we're just churning energy into these data centers, and I can assure you they're not solar or renewables 9 times out of 10. But anyway, that's just that's an old cynic. When you get as old as me, you get very cynical. 10 minutes left. Are there any more questions that anybody has for Almighty, or comments? You're a PhD student, right?
Yes, it's my first year.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's very brave of you to come and do this presentation. And so congratulations. Anthony, you've got your hand up. 3 minutes, go for it.
Just a follow up, it's interesting when you mentioned at the end, I think it comes to the applications of this technology, and you make reference to blockchain technology and artificial intelligence. I'm not in digitization or in technologies. I'm in accounting and financial management, but I've just seen the relevance of exactly that technology to a sustainable application of accounting and financial management into a curriculum. To deliver better outcomes, finance outcomes. And I just find that very interesting that these two technologies are the two that are in fact dominating. And therefore I can find almost acceptance to these being sustainable. And we need to define what sustainable means then.
Thank you.
Anthony, do you know how much energy is used in a single Bitcoin blockchain transaction, given that it has to go through a gazillion links in a chain?
Neil, I wouldn't consider the cost in isolation of benefit. So when we talk about how much energy goes in, you should say what then comes out. And then have some, in my view, I would want to relate it to a benefit. Yes, there's a cost, but in a conclusion on the question, what then would be the benefit? And if that's cost benefit, if it outplays the cost, you could argue you go with it.
Perhaps. Yes. No, I mean, obviously there's a consequentialist argument in that. But I suspect most of it is going to Donald Trump's cryptocurrency transactions at this stage. Anyway, I'm cynical. And time is pretty much up. So thank you, Almighty, and thanks very much for giving us a bit of time to have a conversation. I think I've been feeling a bit starved of that.
Thanks for the
So I'm
conference
going to
for
go on
your
to the. That's our pleasure. I'm going to go on to the next speaker. Now, I think technically it should be Ogoko, and but he's still not in the room. He's struggling to get into the room.
Neil Ogoko
So
has
I'm
come
gonna.
into the room.
Okay, he's not in my list yet. I still see him under
Let me just move him across. Ogogo, you should
attendees.
be getting a message to move across to the panelists.
And there's also Katlego Kekana, who,
I'll do
if
the
I'm not
same with that
mistaken,
at the moment as well.
yeah, because she's also on the list to speak.
They should be
So
getting a
Katlego, when an invitation comes, please move over.
Okay, Ogogo declined to move across as panelist, so we can't present from the
okay
attendees side.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to the next presenter who we have in the room. And Chiwe, I believe you've been migrated over to this session. So Chiwe, I'm going to give you the go ahead to do your presentation. If you can hear me, you can set up your presentation.
Yes, I can hear you very well. Hello.
Perfect.
I sent an earlier recorded presentation. I was thinking and hoping it would be used instead. You know, I'm scared of connectivity, network, and possible.
Don't you want to try? So Paul, I have no control over that, over the screening of those things. Paul is busy trying to get other people across. Paul, you've put your face up. Are you?
Yeah. Sorry, just to come in here. Yeah, sorry, Chiwe, I didn't receive any recording, so maybe if you wouldn't mind, just let's give it a go to present what you have got, and then we can run it through. I think that would be great from that side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
And you know what? It's better when you present it. It just feels more alive. Okay, it's starting to come up. There we go. You just need to put it into presentation mode. It might mean enabling editing. I'm not sure.
Yeah, if you just enable editing at the top, and then at the bottom right, there's a little screen icon. Click on that, and that will swap it around.
So in the yellow band, enable editing first. Okay, it's going on its own.
There we go.
Great. Good.
Yes, can you
It's
hear me
on.
now?
We can see you. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. I'm going to turn off my video to save some bandwidth, and I'm going to turn off my audio, and it's over to you. 20 minutes. You can use them how you like. I'll warn you at 15 minutes that you've got 5 minutes left. Otherwise, over to you, Chiwe.
Thank you. Yeah, good day, conference participants. My name is Chiwe Mama, and I'll be presenting this paper titled Harnessing AI for Anti-Corruption, Governance, and Ethical Challenges. This paper was written by Professor Kemi Ogunyemi from Lagos Business School and myself, Chiwe Mama, from the University of Lagos. The fight against corruption has always been a major concern for both public and private sectors. This is because corruption hinders economic growth. Corruption causes instability. Corruption undermines the integrity of governance processes. It weakens institutions. And there has been various efforts, there have been various laws in place to attempt to fight corruption, attempt to prevent corruption. But the question remains how successful have these efforts been? We have, for example, the African Union Convention on Preventing and Combating Corruption, 2003, obliges member states to adopt anti-corruption legislation and establish independent anti-corruption bodies across Africa for the sole purpose of fighting corruption. But the truth is, implementation of these efforts have been a bit uneven across Africa. However, in recent years, AI anti-corruption tools have emerged to play an innovative and transformational role in fighting corruption. These tools are now often used by investigators, by banks, by financial institutions to uncover financial crimes, to uncover fraud, suspicious transactions, and so on. So, in spite of the benefits these tools bring to us or to society at large, they also come with introduce new and novel ethical and governance challenges. There are concerns around algorithmic transparency. You know, people are worried that sometimes the algorithm might not be transparent enough. There are concerns about contestability of automated decisions when AI flags corruption. There are concerns about the problem of black boxes, a lack of explainability, and hallucinations. There are also concerns about privacy and data protection issues. Now, this research, the question this research seeks to answer is, what are the ethical and governance challenges faced by actors in harnessing the potentials of AI in the fight against corruption? And the objectives of this paper is, first, to examine how AI tools are currently being deployed for anti-corruption purposes, and two, to identify the ethical and governance challenges in harnessing AI for anti-corruption. The theoretical base for this paper, one is deontology. Deontology here simply entails, it emphasizes the importance of duty, intention, and universal maxims. It is based on the principles that ethical evaluation of an action should be the duty of the agent that is executing it. So for AI developers, deployers, this theory applies mostly to them. Then we have the responsible research and innovation, that's the RRI. This is an ongoing process of aligning research and innovation to the values, to the needs, and the expectations of the society. In this instance, to ensure that AI anti-corruption tools being developed or being deployed in the society in the fight against corruption is not only is not just innovative, but also aligns to the values and morals and needs of the society at large. The methodology, this is a desktop and library-based paper. We consulted journal articles, papers, and internet public sources between 2018 and 2025. We also looked at the case study of Albania's Diela. Diela is an AI anti-corruption tool that Albania developed and have been using in detail. We'll talk about it in detail as we progress, but Diela is an anti-corruption tool developed by Albania. Then the paper is also descriptive, it's analytical, and also exploratory. Then the paper excluded non-scholarly or opinion-based sources. Moving on, how is AI anti-corruption tools being used to fight corruption? So how are they being applied? They are being applied in screening and detection, in procurement monitoring, in pattern recognition, visualizing complex financial flows. They support auditors. They also help in analyzing anonymous whistleblowing reports. Now, for uh, for screening and detection, especially for procurement, AI anti-corruption tools are able to detect irregularities in public procurement data, and they are able to monitor compliance in various stages, including at the planning stage, at the initial tender stage, the contract award stage, contract finalization stage, and also at the implementation stage of procurement. For pattern detection, they predict corruption risk by analyzing behavioral and transactional data and also enhance fraud detection platforms. They usually achieve this by predicting areas or sectors with a higher risk of fraud, say in the future, and sometimes based on historical data and current trends. The auditors and investigators are now able to use AI anti-corruption tools to perform various operational tasks involving high volumes of documentation. So these tools enable both auditors, investigators to organize large volume of tests for easier consumption and prioritization. How does it also help for in analyzing anonymous whistleblowing reports? It's for example, AI-powered anonymous whistleblowing systems enable the protection of whistleblowers and also scrutinize whistleblowing to be able to ensure the validity of the information being sent and those being received. Now, in summary, what are the key benefits and capabilities of AI anti-corruption tools? One is scale and speed. They process vast, complex data sets in real time to uncover hidden corruption patterns that human teams could miss. Proactive detection. They allow predictive analytics, shifting from retrospective audits to proactive risk anticipation. For efficiency, they automate labor-intensive screening and analysis. They reduce effort and human error. And as I said earlier, investigators can prioritize high-value tasks using these tools. They are able to visualize complex financial flows. They help allocate oversight where risk is highest. And they ultimately, for integrity enhancement, they validate documents for authenticity. They detect forgeries and support secure anonymous reporting, particularly strengthening accountability across sectors. We quickly look at the ethical and governance challenges in AI for anti-corruption. I've mentioned them earlier on, but now I'm going to explain briefly. We have the concern of privacy and data protection. We have black box systems, in this case, lack of explainability and AI hallucinations. We have algorithmic bias. We have data governance challenges. Then there is also lack of accountability. For privacy, the EU's GDPR, that's General Data Protection Regulation, which provides a global standard, global data protection safeguard, which is in this case relevant to us in our discussion of AI in anti-corruption. Article 5 of that, of the GDPR, holds that personal data must be processed lawfully, it must be processed fairly, and in a transparent manner, with a specific purpose and minimize to what is necessary. And it also goes on to say that data must be accurate, only kept for as long as needed, that's storage limitation, and must be handled with integrity and confidentiality to ensure security. So these data, this law, this regulation is concerned with the privacy of individual citizens. This is because in most countries, I know that privacy is not just a constitutional right, but is also seen as fundamental rights, fundamental human rights. So it is important to not just protect the privacy of the citizens, but also to protect the way that their data, personal data, is being used, to protect it from misuse and unauthorized use. We have the issue of black box systems, lack of explainability, and AI hallucination. When AI systems begin to operate as black boxes, they produce outcomes that even their developers may not fully grasp how specific outcomes are produced. So this lack of explainability challenges the principle of fair and transparent data processing, especially where predictive models, for example, begin to target a set of people and then begin to flag corruption where without offering any justification. So in all, hallucination is the technical term used to describe an AI-generated response that contains misleading information presented as fact. So nobody would find it funny where AI flags corruption, damaging their reputation, damaging their integrity in the society, only for it to be eventually discovered that they are innocent of such accusations. So this is a challenge. Then looking at algorithmic bias. Algorithm designed to forecast the probability of criminal activity based on racial, geographical bias, or gender, whatever it is, concerning individuals identified as high-risk offenders are not fair. And of course, they are unethical. So in 2016, when ProPublica published their article titled Machine Bias, the analysis of that paper revealed that African Americans were disproportionately subjected to erroneous profiling of future criminal acts, whereas Caucasians were disproportionately rendered falsely innocent. So this, in no little way, stand as a serious ethical challenge. Then we have governance, data governance challenge. I'll talk about lack of accountability, then I'll talk about data governance challenge. In this instance, there should be some level of, and we know that AI operates, AI's learning capabilities enables it to do even more than the developers expect. So sometimes when AI hallucinates, or when there are results that were not predicted, when those kind of events happen, who should be held accountable? So lack of accountability also stands as an ethical challenge that hinders the progress or the adoption. Yes,
5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. That hinders the adoption of AI anti-corruption tools for the purpose of fighting anti-corruption. Then we have automated decisions without human oversight. There should be some sort of human oversight. AI should not be allowed, AI anti-corruption tools should not be allowed to make decisions solely without any human in the loop. Then we recommend, of course, data governance essentials, algorithmic governance and design. There are already some existing global guidelines. We also recommend mandatory human review for high impact flags. We also recommend legal compliance checks. Then quickly, I'll look at Albania's AI minister, Diela. Diela is the world's first AI member of parliament, serving as Albania's Minister of Procurement. The purpose of this AI anti-corruption tool is majorly to reduce human discretion, speed procurement decisions, and of course, signal Albania's commitment to digital governance. The tool is helpful. There's a lot to get to discover from how Adela processes information, how she operates. But for the purpose of time, we'll just go on to our lessons for Africa. For data governance and strategy, Africa must reform data governance and adopt that's AI strategies aligned with anti-corruption goals. For ethical framework, Africa must safeguard privacy, fairness, accountability, and always include human oversight. For education and skills, teach ethics, data protection, and algorithmic accountability. In public-private partnerships, encourage interdisciplinary education, collaborate with responsible AI governance and capacity, and of course, cooperate regionally to address cross-border governance challenges. The business ethics have a role in AI governance. So in our summary, there's need to embed AI ethics in business education, and then there's also a need to foster partnerships with technology, tech industries, and policy bodies to ensure education keeps pace with AI innovation. In conclusion, AI anti-corruption tools offer powerful new tools against corruption, but their integration raises significant ethical and governance risk. So the success requires robust data and data, clear governance frameworks, and not just tech fixes. So our call to action is that there should be a combined technical safeguard with legal and ethical measures to be able to harness AI anti-corruption tools for the purpose it's meant for. Thank you.
Thank you, Chire. That was, I'm pleased you did it as a presentation as opposed to a recording. As I say, I think it's always more human when there's a human. Yeah. Any quick questions before we try and figure out how we're going to get the next person to talk? Anthony.
I was waiting. I was waiting for someone to.
No, I knew you were going to come in on this one, right? National Treasury types. They had to have something on this one. Okay.
So what I liked about this, right? Thanks. Right at the end of the presentation, there were some recommendation, and I wrote down, and it was linked to a curriculum, and it was linked to embedding artificial intelligence ethics. And now what I'd like to know is what technology or application would you recommend, or do you know of, that could embed? Because how do you define embeddedness of ethics into that curriculum? Because that was my earlier topic. And how can it be done? What technology exists, and how can you use the technology? Thanks.
Thank you very much. So my our recommendation, if I had more time to read it, but due to time, our recommendation is for business ethics. Business ethics is all-encompassing. So I'm not saying bring in technology into business ethics, rather let business ethics guide how technology is developed. Let business ethics guide how technology is also deployed. Yeah, so this is how I see it. I don't know, someone else might see it in a different way, but this is how I see it, and this is my response to your question. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm going to ask a question, but before I do, I just want to let you know that I still waiting for the two attendees who, okay, so, okay, I see Ogoko is here. Okay, anyway, let me ask my one question and then I'm going to hand over to Ogoko to do his. So my bank for, I don't know, the last 10 years has already been able to pick up, like within seconds, strange transactions on my credit card. It's like, you know, there's a strange transaction and they're on it. So I suspect that the technology to pick up, or a lot of the technology to pick up these transactions is already in existence. And I suspect that the problem is not the presence of technology, but perhaps the presence of a will or willingness, because banks profit very much out of transactions which involve corruption. And so I wonder whether you have any thoughts about that as a constraint on this techno optimism.
Sorry, I didn't hear you very well.
Okay. Yeah, I think my network, we have a thunderstorm going on here. But okay, so I'm going to leave it though, because I think we're well out of time, but I'll drop you an email or something with my question afterwards. And okay, so I'm going to hand over to the next presenter, but thanks very much for jumping in. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And so Ogoko, you finally are in the presentation space.
Yes, I'm here. No, thank you.
It's a religious moment here. If I get struck by lightning, it's because something amazing has happened. We're pleased to have you. You've been listening, I assume, so you know the rules. 20 minutes. I'll give you a warning at 15. Yeah, and then I'll shut you down at 20. I can see your presentation. If you can just put it into presentation mode.
Okay, I'm doing that now.
Okay. Okay, brilliant.
There you go. Good to roll.
I'm gonna start the clock and let you go.
Okay,
Thanks.
good day, everyone. My name is Ogoko Ambrose. I'm here to present a paper on mindful use of social media and ethical concern in Nigeria. This paper is authored by me, Ogoko Ambrose, and Professor Okemi Ogunyemi. Okay, Professor of Business Ethics here at Lagos Business School. I'm a doctorate researcher here at Lagos Business School, and equally I head the department here, Assurance and Compliance. I will start by telling you a story about Chiamaka, a final year student in Lagos. One morning, she saw a post, a grainy video claiming a popular sachet water brand was contaminated. Her heart sank. With a surge of protective urgency, she hit share, sending it to her family group and beyond. Her intention was pure, to protect her community, but the information was false. That single impulsive share contributed to panic, loss of livelihood for honest vendors, and a further erosion of public trust. Chiamaka is not unethical. She's a paradox, and her story is Nigeria's story. Today, we will explore this critical paradox between our good intentions and our digital actions, and we will uncover a powerful, culturally grounded solution. So, Nigeria is Africa's undisputed giant in social media, with over 38.7 million active users. Our digital landscape is vibrant. Okay, a hub for commerce, activism like NSAS, and social connection. But this explosive growth has a dark underbelly, moving faster than our regulatory or educational frameworks can keep up with. We face tripartite crisis. Okay, the crisis resulting from misinformation. And 42% of undergraduates admit to spreading it. going by previous works done in this topic. Then cyberbullying, which affects 35% of our youth. Okay. Then we have privacy erosion, with personal data becoming a cheap commodity. The question is, why does this persist? Why? Now, we have previous authors who have worked in this area, in this research area, approaching this differently. Some of those authors approach it looking at regulatory solutions. Okay, Nigeria's 2015 Cybercrime Act was their basis. And then others looked at it through digital literacy lens, emphasizing on technical skills and critical thinking for identifying misinformation. And then others look at it from religious and cultural backgrounds and calls for applying traditional moral codes online. And then we discover that the studies are isolated on specific problems like misinformation or cyberbullying, all in isolation. Okay, what's the critical gap to this paper? What's the gap that it fills? Previous research explores the user's internal cognitive process in translating ethical knowledge into consistent action. So there is a lack of focus on contextualized user-mediated practices tailored to Nigeria's unique socio-cultural context, where communal ethics, that's harmony and respect, clash with individualistic platform designs. Okay, the core problem, a significant awareness action gap. From the analysis we've done based on previous studies, it points to that fact that this is the gap. Now, the central research problem, like I said, the awareness action gap, high ethical awareness and intent, 77% report engaging respectfully, 71.4% claim to avoid unverified news, and low mindful action and habit. 54% neglect emotional reflection after using social media, and only 37% proactively manage their privacy settings. This gap fuels ethical risk, viral misinformation, privacy scams, and mental strain. So what are the research questions we use in this work? We try to find out how mindfulness practices, correlate with mental health outcomes and equally social connectivity. And to what extent do education level and gender influence privacy behaviors and ethical information sharing? Okay, how do cultural norms and algorithmic awareness shape respectful engagement and online authenticity? What ethical challenges motivate advocacy for mindful practices, and how do solutions align with Nigeria's socio-cultural context? Okay, so what's the theoretical framework we use in this work? Virtue ethics is adopted. Virtue ethics is adopted in this work because we cannot solve this problem with more punitive laws. We cannot legislate a pause into Chiamaka's tomb. Our study is anchored in virtue ethics theory. This philosophy, dating back to Aristotle, argues that ethical behavior isn't about following rules, but about cultivating good character through habit. This aligns perfectly with Nigeria's communal ethos, Iwapele, Eziawa, where good character is paramount. We ask, can we build a digital character for Nigeria? What methodology did we use in this research? We adopted a robust explanatory sequential mixed methods design. We first surveyed 364 active social media users in Lagos. Lagos is like a cosmopolitan city in Nigeria. Every part of Nigeria is represented in Lagos. Okay, so, and we use Cochran's formula for a 95% confidence level. This gave us the hard numbers. Then we dove deeper with qualitative thematic analysis of open-ended responses. This equally allowed us to move beyond what people do to understand why they do it, capturing the human story behind the statistics. Okay, so what's our finding? One is that mindfulness is a critical tool for well-being. The second finding is that education level is a stronger predictor of ethical behavior than gender. Postgraduates in our responses showed more mindful habits. 80% use social media over less than 5 hours a day. And then undergraduates reported heavier use, 86% more than 3 hours a day, and less consistent ethical practices. This highlights the critical role of advanced education in fostering digital ethics. Okay, so the thematic analysis analysis showed what users are most afraid of. They left no room for doubt when they picked the 3 dominant ethical challenges, and they are all in order. One is misinformation and unverified content. The second one is the cyberbullying and hateful conduct. Approximately 55% of them agree to this, and 85% agree to misinformation and unverified content. And 45% agree to privacy and data security. Other concerns included addiction, erosion of decorum, and exposure to inappropriate content. The fourth finding is that we looked at the solution. What is the solution? Through thematic analysis. So how do we? Yeah, it seems to be the most powerful insight from our study, all right? Because when we didn't just ask about problems, we equally asked about solutions, and the users gave us a clear, unified answer. They intuitively pointed to mindfulness as a remedy, but not as a vague concept. They described it as an internal break, a conscious pause before posting act. Our thematic matrix shows they directly link this intentionality to fighting misinformation, and this cultivated empathy to reducing cyberbullying. They are asking for the tools to build that digital character. The solution they assert starts from within. So how do we install this internal break nationwide? So we look at the recommendations. It requires a culturally tailored multi-stakeholder approach, and we proposed 4 key recommendations. One is for educators to integrate practical digital citizenship education, focus on emotional regulation and critical algorithm literacy. Then for platforms, for those who design platforms, to redesign privacy and well-being features to be more intuitive and proactive for diverse users. They have to we require them to add features for digital well-being that will make privacy settings and set break reminders intuitive and not buried. They have to proactively prompt reflection so that users can be able to be conscious and be able to apply critical thinking when they are to use social media. Now for communities, they have to launch awareness campaigns framing mindful use as an extension of African values that rest in harmony, respect, and championed by community leaders. For individuals to adopt simple habits like a 1-minute emotional reflection after a social media session. Okay, so this study identified and investigated the critical awareness gap. In conclusion, we investigated this awareness action gap and equally find a culturally grounded solution for it. It moves beyond regulation, digital literacy to propose mindfulness grounded in virtue ethics as a culturally aligned solution. The core contribution of this work is that it provides empirical basis for framing digital citizenship as a matter of character and habit, leveraging Nigeria's communal values to bridge the gap between ethical intent and mindful action. The Nigerian digital citizen is ethically awake, but habitually asleep. The bridge between intent and action is mindfulness, cultivated character, not controlled compliance. Let us invest not just in digital infrastructure, but in digital character. Let us transform our online space from a landscape of risk into a nation of conscious, connected, and virtuous communities. Let's return to Chiamaka. It's months later, she sees another alarming post. The impulse is the same, but now she has a habit. She feels the urge to share and she breathes. She engages her internal brake. She pauses. She asks, is this true? What is my goal? She doesn't forward it. Instead, she messages, let me verify this first. That single pause stops a chain reaction. It transforms her from a vector of misinformation into a beacon of digital integrity. This is the power we are talking about. It is the transformation from an impulsive user to a mindful digital citizenship. So I want to use this opportunity to thank Ben Africa Conference for providing this platform and opportunity to make this paper presentation. As well, thank Professor Kemi Ogunyemi, who is a co-author to this work, and the Professor of Business Ethics here at Lagos Business School. I equally thank Obinna Ezala and Arthur Peters, who assisted equally in this work. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ogoko. We have, I don't know, like 3 minutes left. There's no other presenters in the room that I'm aware of. So I'll take some questions if there are any. Okay, maybe I'm going to break the ice, Anthony, so that I relieve you of the pressure. I mean, I'm curious. I hope you can hear me.
Yes,
but
I can hear
I'm
you.
curious. Good. So one of the things that I think is a consequence of social media and AI and these kind of tech universes we live in is precisely an undermining of our mindfulness. Like it's almost it's almost like an HIV effect. So your body's immunity to the virus is compromised by the virus, if you know what I'm saying. In this
Yes.
case, our capacity to develop mindfulness is undermined by these things which require mindfulness. Do you think there's any kind of truth to this, that there's actually quite a strong negative feedback loop, and particularly as AI comes into the thing, where increasingly we are alienated from thinking? Thanks.
Okay, if you the paper, the research we did was actually it bordered around what you just said now, because we realized that the issue we have is that issue of mindfulness. And now you check the responses we got from the users, they were quite aware, okay? But they are quite aware, but they do things that, do not actually show that they are aware. All right. So you realize that we have that action, the awareness and action gap. Okay. So where awareness and action gap exists, it means that the solution to it has to be from inside. Okay. It's through people, the users, developing the habit. All right. So the habit not only to be aware, but to realize what they should do with the awareness. Okay, and I think that's where the digital education comes into place, because habit is formed gradually, as we practice it. Okay, it's built over time, and for it to happen, then there has to be that form of education that people need to clearly understand the danger, okay, that this will pose if they don't not only being aware, but taking action to align with that awareness. Okay, so I think that's what the work, is about. I don't know if I answered you. Did you hear me now?
Yeah, I think so. I can hear you. I think we could have long conversations about this, but it's after 3 on my side, which means it's after 5 on that side, which I think means we've come to the end of of the session for today. As I say, there's no more presenters in the room, so I think all that remains for me is to just thank everybody for your participation. Thank everybody who's still here for the presentations that you made, and for a thoroughly enjoyable afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Neil.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all. Thanks for the presentation.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Take care. I won't say go and enjoy those cocktails on the beach, unless some of you are in more exotic places than me.
No, I'm right next to you, right here, enjoying the thunderstorms in Pretoria. Okay.
Exactly.
Virtually.
All right, everybody. Bye-bye, and see you tomorrow, hopefully.
Bye.